A crippling ice storm with potentially catastrophic impacts is coming to a portion of the United States, as well as a huge Arctic blast, lots of snow, potentially feet of snow in some places. We have a high impact winter storm coming over the next few days. Today, let's break down in the world of weather what we can expect. So starting out, just look at this weather map first of all. Look at all the alerts we have. All of these colors, all of these boxes, this indicates some sort of weather watch, and they're all winter related to the cold. All of these pink boxes here, these are winter storm warnings, meaning winter storm conditions, whether ice or snow is expected. These lighter kind of bluish areas, teal areas, those are winter storm watches, meaning winter storm impacts are coming, but maybe a little later, a little less certain on the forecast. All this blue up to the north, that's extreme cold warnings that watches. Brutal wind chills as low as -50 degrees to the north, but even to the south, extreme cold warnings are issued as well, as wind chills could go all the way down to 0 degrees all the way into Texas. So a very high impact, just very expansive cold snap coming to really the eastern whole 2/3 of the country. So we know the impacts are going to be there. We also have a storm brewing. Now, believe it or not, our storm is still out all the way in California. We can see a beautiful swirl of low pressure here in the atmosphere. All of this moisture and energy is moving to the east, and at the same time, look up to the north. Here is the cold air. It's a little small on the screen, but all of these temperature readings here are current temperatures as of Thursday evening. It's -22 degrees in Minnesota, -1 in Wisconsin. All this cold air is coming south. As that interacts with the low pressure bringing moisture, boom, we suddenly have snow and ice, and potentially a significant amount. This kind of summarizes a forecast ahead. This is a winter storm index map. Anyone in the yellow or greater colors, that's where we have at least minor impacts from winter weather possible over the next 3 days. And really, this is just covers so much of the country from a mix of both snow and ice. The orange areas, you need to be a little more concerned with moderate impacts, but the red and the purple, especially here in Mississippi, Louisiana, we have a stripe of purple. You need to watch out for major to even extreme winter storm impacts with the potential of high-end crippling weather that could impact you for many days ahead. Let's break down the specifics of our winter weather outlook. This right here is specifically for ice accumulations. So anywhere in these highlighted colors, you need to watch out more for ice than snow. If you're on the north end of this risk, then it could kind of be a mix between ice and snow, but especially in the middle and southern portions, that's where high-end ice impacts are possible. In particular, I do want to note out the stretch of moderate to major ice impacts from North Texas into Louisiana and Mississippi. This is Dallas, Tyler, Shreveport, Monroe, all the way into Tupelo in northern Mississippi. You are kind of in the worst and the potential most dangerous impacts from ice, and we could be dealing with catastrophic infrastructure and tree damage. I'll get more into that in a minute. But even outside of that, just anywhere in the orange, including Austin in Texas, all the way up to the northeast, the Carolinas, the Tennessee Valley, significant ice impacts are coming. And here's a look at the snow impacts. Notice it's a little further north, so if you weren't in the ice, you are in the snow. This includes more of the northeast, Philadelphia, DC, and more of Kentucky, and then even further into New England, New York, Boston. Y'all's impacts are more so coming on Sunday, day 4 from now. And this just goes to show just how wide-ranging and large this snowstorm will be. Alright, so let's quickly go through the impacts. We'll go kind of fast just because we have a lot to talk about, but let's just get a general overview again of what the models are showing. First signs of precipitation are going to be over Texas on Friday, mainly as rain. The cold front has not yet arrived, meaning Texas, y'all will be seeing rain, potentially heavy rain on your day Friday. But look at this, as we get into Friday evening, Friday night, the cold front starts catching up, colder air spills in, and we start getting that transition to snow. So by as early as 9 p.m., we could be dealing with snow and sleet from Dallas into Oklahoma, portions of the Texas Panhandle. The storm grows and gets colder through the day on Sunday, so the area of sleet, snow starts expanding and moving east into portions of the deep south. The ice line starts moving further south on your day Saturday. As we get into Saturday evening, look at just how expansive this huge shield of precipitation is. It's going to be starting all the way from Texas up to near Chicago into portions of the northeast. So this is just a gigantic storm. In the north part, it's snow, so that's where the cold is. South part is rain, but in the middle where that mixes, that's where the sleet and freezing rain are possible, and the ice, and that's potentially the most crippling impact of this whole system. Everything will continue to move further to the east. One thing to note for the northeast, models are showing strengthening of the storm. Now we'll get more to that in a minute, but this could be the snowiest weather for portions of the northeast that we've had in a long time. Everything starts clearing off the coast and we're quiet by the time we get to Monday, but before then it's going to be a really rocky road as this huge storm system crosses the country. Taking a little more of a granular look now, let's go a little more high resolution with our HRRR model. So as we go through the day Friday, again, we're going to start getting rain developing, but very quickly freezing rain will develop. This red color, that's all freezing rain, and that's all ice. Blue is snow. As we go through the day on Friday, this is Friday evening, this is when snow, freezing rain, sleet are all on the table from Kansas, Oklahoma down to Dallas. So places south of Dallas, y'all will say mainly rain up till midnight Saturday. Dallas, that's where the freezing rain will be, and then north into Oklahoma, that's where snow will be. Continuing on a few hours later, notice this is heavy ice, heavy freezing rain over portions of Dallas extending eastward, and that's potentially significant. Up to the north, this is heavy snow in Oklahoma, Arkansas. The freezing rain starts extending further south toward the Austin area, with some heavy rain potentially in Austin before the freezing rain begins. Then everything starts transitioning as everything starts racing to the east. Our pretty huge expansive snow sets up all the way into the Midwest. This shield of heavy freezing rain sets up into Arkansas and portions of the deep south. It's going to be a very messy day on Saturday, and all these areas here are going to be seeing precipitation in some form. Notice freezing rain redeveloping over Texas, portions of Austin as we get into Saturday evening, and then just heavy freezing rain potentially in Memphis, snow in Kentucky. It's just going to be a very messy day of precipitation on Saturday. So this is what we are most concerned about. This is the ice forecast, and ice is crippling. Snow we could deal with in a lot of places. Even in the south, snow is impactful, but ice is really what's crippling. It can bring down trees, power lines, and potentially widespread infrastructure damage. This is the total ice accumulations across the south according to the GFS model, and some places seeing over an inch of ice is very, very bad news. Anything over half of an inch, 0.5 inches of ice, that's enough to cripple and fall tree limbs and power outages. Anything over an inch of ice, this is catastrophic. This could potentially leave areas days to even a week without power. One thing to note here is the GFS model is likely confusing some sleet with ice. Sleet is ice that falls, but it doesn't cling to the power lines and trees like freezing rain does. Freezing rain is regular rain, but when it hits the trees and the power lines, it freezes, creating icicles and really weighing down all those power lines to cause impacts. Sleet, it falls as ice, meaning it doesn't cling and stick to those tree limbs and add that extra weight. The actual ice totals might be a little bit less than this, but even anywhere near an inch of ice, that is historic and crippling and something we need to be very concerned about. And then look, this stretch of ice, 2 inches of ice is insane. I don't think we'll see anywhere near that, but if we even do, if we see 1.5 inches of ice, that is enough to cause very widespread infrastructure impacts, potentially for weeks on end. This is very unique and very historic setup that we need to very closely pay attention to. So something I wanted to briefly talk about is the Sperry-Pilz Ice Accumulation Index. This kind of tells how bad ice damage will be, and right now we are looking at somewhere between a 3 and 4 for some of those higher ice totals. So I would say anywhere above a half inch of ice, if you have enough wind, that's enough to place you solidly in the category 3. Numerous utility interruptions with some damage to made feeder lines and equipment, tree limb damage, excessive outages lasting 1 to 5 days. 1 to 5 days without power. We need to prepare for that. 1 inch of ice, that's enough to place you in category 4. Prolonged and widespread utility interruptions, outages lasting 5 to 10 days. Hopefully we don't see any category 5 impacts, but if we do see 2 inches of ice, that's catastrophic and it could bring weeks without power. What that means is if you're anywhere in this dark green area right here, especially from northeast Texas into a chunk of Louisiana, Arkansas, northern Mississippi, and parts of Tennessee, you need to prepare for potentially days without power. So start charging up batteries, make sure you have enough supplies. Don't raid the grocery stores, but make sure you have enough supplies to last in case you can't travel, in case you lose the power, and just be thinking about how to stay warm and how to stay safe at home in the event the power goes out. And there's going to be a corridor here where it's pretty likely for widespread power outages. So it's scary, but we can be prepared, and we definitely need to be prepared for this over the next few days. Broadening out areas in the lighter green shades, you likely won't experience as widespread power outage impacts, but travel impacts will be the biggest thing with icy roads, icy bridges. So prepare for potentially a few days just at home. That's the safest place you can be, honestly, as the very cold air comes comes in. So yeah, I can't stress it enough how dangerous ice is. It's the crippling ice storms. Those are the ones that we remember and bring the most widespread power outages and potentially the biggest impact. So the areas of purple and red, you need to be really watching out, but there is still a big snow threat. A lot of snow expected, again, as this moves to the northeast, heavy snow possible for Boston and New York. Taking a look at some of the snow totals, we have a wide swath of over 6 inches of snow expected. Anyone in this dark blue area here, prepare for snow, potentially lasting for a while with very cold air coming in. This includes parts of Oklahoma and Arkansas, Kansas, Missouri that usually might not get these big time snow events that often. Now, the obvious hotspot that stands out is the northeast. Models are coming together to converge on a very snowy storm in the northeast as that area of low pressure tightens. Look at this. This is a conservative forecast, the national blend of models, and we already have 1.5 to 2 feet of snow possible up here. Now, a lot can change because this is later on in the forecast period, but it's possible that portions of the northeast, including New York and Boston, could exceed 2 feet of snow. So that's a lot to go over through with the precipitation. Real quickly, let's finish out talking with the temperatures because it's going to be very cold. Again, Minnesota painfully cold, already negative 22 degrees. This cold air is coming south. Portions of Minnesota might not get above 0 for the next 3 to 4 days. So that's just how significant this Arctic blast is. Going further south, the freezing line rapidly approaches into Arkansas. This is where freezing rain and snow will develop, and the coldest air looks to be Monday morning and Tuesday morning. Monday morning, as snow has fallen, temperatures could be as low as the single digits in Dallas, teens in Austin, and just widespread very cold air. Tuesday morning, look, the GFS spins temperatures as low as negative 10 degrees in Tennessee. The bottom line here is going to be dangerously cold across a lot of the country, and if you go out of power for potentially several days, then this cold comes, that has the recipe for disaster if you're not prepared. So we need to start getting prepared for that, for potentially very cold weather on top of no power and heat. That's a worst case scenario. Hopefully that doesn't happen for many, but it is a very real possibility, especially in that corridor of heaviest ice that I mentioned earlier. Okay, one last thing to wrap up is even after this storm is done this weekend, our weather pattern does look to stay colder. We're in a pattern where the polar vortex and lobes of Arctic air is moving into the US, and it doesn't look like they'll stop anytime soon. This is the 6 to 10 day outlook. This is a week away, and look how high confidence we have, 90% confidence by the Climate Prediction Center that very cold air will continue. So it's not just this blast, we could have more blasts of polar air behind it. Now, as we get further into the future, the forecast gets more uncertain, but if any storm system took advantage of that cold air, we could see even more snow. So lots to track, but winter is definitely not over and definitely not going anywhere. It's possible we're setting up for an extended cold stretch across anywhere east of the Rockies. Meanwhile, the West, y'all are staying pretty warm and pretty fine compared to everyone else. So yeah, that was a lot to track, but a significant winter storm is on the way. In summary, if you're in the orange, prepare for travel impacts. If you're in the red and purple, especially the stretch of purple from East Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, that's where we're most concerned about the ice and power outages. On top of that, just prepare for the cold. So very high impacts coming to much of the US. And this has the potential to be one of those storms we remember for a long time if it's as bad as some of the models are currently thinking. So we don't want to unnecessarily scare anyone, but we do want to make sure you're ready and have a plan in place for when that cold and ice and snow comes. So thanks for watching, everyone. I'll try to provide some updates over the weekend as the storm comes, and stay warm, everyone.